Hi, this is Mary Michon at Bensell Greenhouse in Toledo, Ohio, and today I'm going to talk to you about the very popular split-leaf Philodendron Monstera plant. Okay, so basic care of a split-leaf Philodendron as a very popular plant. A lot of people like it because it can handle lower light situations. A northern or eastern exposure in a window is really ideal. If it's a southern or western exposure, you want to take it and set it back 2 to 3 feet from that window, and it will do really well. I often rotate my plants a quarter to a half every few weeks as I'm watering on my watering days, just to keep the growth of the plant going in a nice circle. So this is a younger plant. This one we have in, it's just beginning to split. I love the nice new green leaf color. And then the other leaves that are older, these are, like I said, is a younger plant, so don't worry if it says split leaf philodendron on it and you're like, where are all the splits? It is coming. It's so fun to watch, and as they grow, it's just very interesting. So this is a younger plant. Now here's a larger one. So this one's a few years old and pretty huge at this point. So you have to think about the space that you're putting in. These are very large plants. They grow huge, and so you may have to up pot them, but we'll also talk about that as you go. So I just take a look at my plants periodically throughout every week as I'm watering, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to trim off some of the leaves that are browning. I mean, this happens. Don't worry about that. It's like your hair. As your hair falls out, it ages and falls out. So too leaves on your plants. Sometimes they get damaged. Here in the greenhouse, people run into them. They fall over and the leaf gets a little bit bruised, and so we'll just come through and I'll just kind of clean that up. I usually take the leaves off that are looking kind of poor, and it also helps when you do that. It also helps to push light back down into the middle of the plant, so you open your canopy up a little bit. And I'm going to take one more off, and now the plant is looking a little bit cleaner. It's not looking so ragged. So I just kind of do a general overall look on it. I have a nice cotton towel here. Sometimes I just come through, give a little pressure, put my hand underneath the leaf and do a little bit of pressure just to clean the dust off of the plant. It does help with breathing. We have heard people putting mayonnaise and weird things on your plant. Don't do that. A nice towel with a little bit of water is all you really need. So I would just kind of come in and clean your leaves off. It's really, here we have a lot of lime deposits in our water, and that builds up on your plants and it just looks unsightly. I love a nice shiny leaf. So that's how you work on the leaves. You can kind of trim it up, thin it out. And then what I do is I start looking inside the plant towards the base of the plant where all the roots are coming up. In normal, when the plant is in its natural habitat, these wild roots that start shooting out of it are meant to anchor the plant wherever it's growing. And it does, and it takes on, as the pieces grow out, those roots get anchored and it brings that water and moisture back up into the plant. What happens sometimes with your split leaves is they tend to grow in one direction. That's what mine was doing at my house. So I see all these aerial roots that are coming out of here, and this is a great opportunity in my eyes for you to take a cutting and start a new plant. So I'm going to just show you here. Let's get this guy out of here. I'm just going to show you as an example on this large branch right here. This guy's got this wild root coming out of it, and it's starting to grow all around the plant. So when they get really, really long and gnarly, you step on them, they start to break. You know, that doesn't help the plant at all. Make sure you come in, and I'm just trying to look for my scissors. Make sure you come in and trim those away. But I'm also looking at this one branch that is sticking out of here. I'm not going to take this whole root off. I'm going to leave a little bit of that, because what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can propagate this plant in a very easy way. I've got a nice nippers here. I'm going to go in between 2 leaf nodes where that root is growing out, and I'm going to cut this plant off. So now I have this piece right here with this really cool root sticking out of it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my little pot. Let me shove this back out of the side. I've got a really nice pot here, little plastic pot with my little roots, and there's actually 2 of them coming out of here. I'm going to bend this down, and I'm going to get this down into this pot, that root, once you water this plant in, that root will take up the moisture and the plant's going to start growing again. So now you've propagated your split leaf. Okay, so we also have this really large split leaf. I purposely did not water it for the last few days because I knew I was going to be working on this video. I wanted the soil to dry out because it's a lot easier for me to work on a plant when it's a little bit drier. Doesn't mean you have to, but it does work nicely. And so what I did is I kind of put my mussel onto the pot. I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to show you how to trim the roots on this, because if you always just up pot this plant, you're going to end up with a pot the size of your couch, and this plant's going to take over your house. So one way to maintain it is to trim the roots. And I know I've got a few videos out there on root trimming, but Monsteras are perfect. This guy is loaded with roots. He's still very, very healthy, but you could kind of see how, because he was really dry, the leaves were kind of starting to fall over. We're going to give this guy a good drink, and in about an hour, those leaves will stand upright again. So the roots are just begging for me to trim them up. So I have a nice, really sharp knife. You could do a serrated knife, you can do a saw. Make sure your knife is nice and sharp. And again, I'm going to come in and I'm taking a third of the root system away. There's a lot of bark in this soil. And I know a lot of people out there like to make their own soil for their aeroids, which is, philodendrons are aeroids. We just use a nice quality soil that drains really well. Again, I use Pro Mix. These came out of Florida. They have a lot of bark in them. It's a whole different growing situation down there than it is in the Midwest. And so I like to put all my plants into similar soils so I understand my watering better. So I've taken a third of the root system off here. I'm going to set it up a little bit. I always take a look at the sides of the pot too to see if there's any way for me to trim the roots down at an angle as well. The biggest thing about a Monstera is the roots tend to go in a circle. So if you start slicing into this and making a V with it, you tend to sever an entire ringing around root. So I don't recommend that. It's just very, very simple for you to take a third of the root system away. Take your soil again. Here's the pot that it was in. I'm going to put it right back in there. I kind of estimate the amount of soil or the roots that I took off and fill that back in with soil. I'm going to just get my plant back in the pot. I'm going to tuck all these roots back in. And then I'm going to slightly put more soil on the top and try to get the soil down underneath where it was down here. So we're going to have to kind of take my hands and cram it down in there. And this guy is ready for a really good drink. All right. And I'm just going to grab my hose. Start off slow so all that fresh soil doesn't go flying out of the pot. Just going to kind of get it moist. And as you wet the soil, then it tends to fill in and around the areas that you cut the roots away with. I'll probably check this again in about a week and see if I need to add a little bit more soil to it. But in about an hour, a lot of these leaves that are kind of limp are going to start standing upright. That's what you're looking for. And then another really quick reminder is about fertilizing. Aeroids don't really need a ton of fertilizer, usually in their growing season. So I start fertilizing usually the end of April, beginning of May, and I stop in September. And then I'll probably fertilize maybe every other month in the winter time. You do want to let your plants, as we go through winter, less daylight hours, cooler temperatures, you do want to help them kind of take a break. And it's always good for them, and then they grow actively in the spring and summer, and then fall and winter they're taking a break. So hopefully this helps everybody. Enjoy these plants. They are big, they're beautiful, they're so much fun to work with. I just love coming in and watching all of this new growth coming. These are great plants for you to have that you can just take a piece, stick it in a pot, get it watered in. Now you can pass it along to a friend or family member, and everyone gets to enjoy the split leaf philodendron.